Welcome everybody. This is Empty Pools. And hey, this is my first video here, woo! We're gonna jump this channel off with a multi-part clump of a series with many different topics that are linked together loosely. I would like to think of it like a story time where I sort of ramble about topics that interest me, with grounded passive research. Put on your floaties, we're going for a swim. We've always tried to make sense of the stars since the cherished dawn of our mysterious mind, using it as navigation tools for land and time. As technology advanced, we incorporated the cosmos into objects and monuments, like the Antikythera mechanism, a roughly 2,100-year-old analog computer that predicted astronomical positions, among other things. And the Temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza. The Maya built this monument with the sun in mind. The steps caused a serpentine shadow from the terraces. This shadow effect is only visible in the spring and autumn equinoxes, where it slithers down and connecting with the head of the feathered serpent deity Kukulkan, giving them a body. And what's with the noise that when you clap and it... Pretty cool. Despite this hereditary connection to the stars, nay, we were not the first living organisms from Earth to be sent into space. No, it was little guys like Laika, a stray pup turned Soviet space dog that boarded the Sputnik 2 in 1957. Sadly, the mission did not end well for her. They never intended for Laika to get back to Earth safely. And you know what the first animal was in space? Fruit flies, in 1947. They survived so... Yay! Kinda trips me out that right now, there is no way of telling fruit flies of their achievements. Before man dares set foot into space, they sent fruit flies, monkeys, dogs, rats, guinea pigs, and rabbits. Looking into this is truly a bummer. We will never forget Albert, Albert 2, Albert 3, Albert 4, and Yorick, also known as Albert 6, Hector the rat, Anita the spider, Ivan the dummy. There's too many to mention here, but I salute all of the sacrifices made by them, even though it breaks my heart.
The animal crew has weathered the flight safely. It's Albert's moment of triumph. He's the world's first space cadet.
After testing space travel with animals, humans started risking their lives in space.
The choices between a new, undreamed-of horizon and universal destruction. Which shall it be?
Some well-known failed missions include Soyuz 1, and Apollo 1. Many other missions were labeled top secret, a large chunk coming from Soviet Russia. Nikolai Kamenin, a Soviet Air Force general and program manager in the Soviet space program, strongly denounced two Italian brothers who claimed to have intercepted Soviet radio signals. He referred to them as space gangsters while rejecting their allegations of a female cosmonaut's demise in space. Although the Judica Cordiglia brothers' claims have never been verified, Kamenin's later declassified journals revealed admissions of pressure and disorganization within the Soviet space program during the space race.
This is the style of our leadership. They've been doing nothing for almost half a year, and now they ask us to prepare an extremely complex mission in just 10 days' time, the program of which has not even been agreed upon.
He also acknowledged that many failed missions were concealed, including the Netherlands catastrophe of October 24th, 1960, when an R-16 missile exploded on the launch pad, killing 120 people, including military officials and Commander-in-Chief Marshal Nederland. Space program employees have historically gone through many trials and tribulations, more than we care to admit.
George Aldrich works for NASA. George smells anything and everything.
Roast beef.
The amount of astronauts claiming to have experienced strange things in space is baffling. Even more surprising is the amount of media supporting their claims. Everybody knows Edwin Eugene Aldrin Jr.
I am the spaceman.
AKA Buzz Aldrin. You know, the first human to urinate on the moon? And the Phobos guy?
There's a monolith.
We'll get to that. After there were fellows orbiting the moon, Buzz, among two other lads, were the first humans to land on the moon. Buzz came out to talk about a sighting the crew had while they were hurtling through space. As they were ending their session with Houston, Neil quickly radioed back.
Do you have any idea where the S4B is with respect to us? Stand by. Apollo 11, Houston, the S4B is about 6,000 nautical miles from you now, over.
Buzz admits later in this documentary that they asked where it was because they all saw an unknown object.
Now, obviously, the three of us were not going to blurt out, "Hey, Houston, we got something moving alongside of us, and we don't know what it is." Who knows what somebody would have demanded that we turn back because of aliens or whatever the reason is. But we did decide we just cautiously ask Houston how far away was the S4B? Mike decided he thought he could see it in the telescope when it was in one position that had a series of ellipses. But when you made it real sharp, it was sort of L-shaped. That didn't tell us very much.
I can't find any media of Neil Armstrong or Michael Collins mentioning or confirming this event publicly. Neil Armstrong was the guy that radioed into Houston after all. So was Buzz telling the truth? Okay guys, breaking news. I clicked on many links and went to the dusty basement of NASA's website and found the declassified Apollo 11 technical crew debriefing. And holy guacamole guys, I got so excited reading this because the evidence is a banger. This is the transcript now.
The first unusual thing that we saw, I guess, was one day out or something. Pretty close to the moon. It had a sizable dimension to it, so we put the monocular on it.
How'd we see this thing? Did we just look out the window and there it was?
Yes, and we weren't sure, but what it might be the S4B. We called the ground and were told the S4B was 6,000 miles away. We had a problem with the high gain about this time, didn't we?
There was something. We felt a bump, or maybe I just imagined it.
He was wondering whether the MESA had come off.
I don't guess we felt anything.
Of course, we were seeing all sorts of little objects going by at the various dumps, and then we happened to see this one brighter object going by. We couldn't think of anything else it could be other than the S4B. We looked at it through the monocular, and it seemed to have a bit of an L shape to it.
Like an open suitcase.
We were in PTC at the time, so each one of us had a chance to take a look at this, and it certainly seemed to be within our vicinity and of a very sizable dimension.
We should say that it was right at the limit of the resolution of the eye. It was very difficult to tell just what shape it was. And there was no way to tell the size without knowing the range, or the range without knowing the size.
So then I got down in the LEB and started looking for it in the optics. We were grossly misled because with the sextant off focus, what we saw appeared to be a cylinder.
Or really 2 rings.
Yes.
2 rings. 2 connected rings.
No, it looked like a hollow cylinder to me. It didn't look like 2 connected rings. You could see this thing tumbling, and when it came around end on, you could look right down in its guts. It was a hollow cylinder. But then you could change the focus on the sextant, and it would be replaced by this open book shape. It was really weird.
I guess there's not too much more to say about it, other than it wasn't a cylinder.
It was during the period when we thought it was a cylinder that we inquired about the S4B, and we'd almost convinced ourselves that's what it had to be. But we don't have any more conclusions than that, really. The fact that we didn't see it much past this one time period, we really don't have a conclusion as to what it might have been, how big it was, or how far away it was. It was something that wasn't part of the urine dump. We're pretty sure of that. Skipping ahead a bit, when we jettisoned the LM, you know we fired an explosive charge and got rid of the docking rings, and the LM went boom. Pieces came off the LM. It could have been some mylar or something that had somehow come loose from the LM.
We thought it could have been a panel, but it didn't appear to have that shape at all.
That's right, and for some reason we thought it might have been a part of the high-gain antenna. It might have been about the time we had high-gain antenna problems. In the back of my mind, I have some reason to suspect that its origin was from the spacecraft.
This to me validates Aldrin's claims, as well as affirms that Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins not only witnessed the unusual thing, but they also investigated it. The description of the object is curious to me, from 2 rings, to a hollow cylinder, to open book shape. And what's with Collins feeling a bump and then suddenly backtracking? The anomalies they experienced doesn't end there. While Armstrong and Aldrin were on the lunar surface, Michael Collins was orbiting the moon, and he mentioned seeing a suspiciously white object, giving a set of coordinates 0.3 north, 7.6 east. Upon investigation, this was west of their landing site, a far ways off. The only named craters in this vicinity that I could find was Radicus F and Lade W. Digging through the debrief again, there is further discussion of light anomalies witnessed at varying times and locations.
I remembered as I began to make an attempt to go to sleep, and all of a sudden I would see a flash somewhere, and before I could turn or get my eye on the flash, it was gone. Now, the first impression was, well, something just penetrated the inside of the spacecraft. And so I asked Neil and Michael, and Neil said, yeah, I saw about 100 of them.
As per good scientific method, all crew members had their theories and did investigations as to what all these anomalies could be. The flashing lights inside the module thus suggest that
they're high Z particles, Z meaning a heavy particle at high velocity that penetrate the spacecraft, penetrate the individual.
This now is a well-documented anomaly coined cosmic ray visual phenomena, or astronaut's eye. We do not know what it is yet, but one theory is that these cosmic rays pass through the astronaut's eyes and brains, interacting with the optic nerve or retina and producing the sensation of flashes of light. And with the book cylinder ring object thing, they made many explanations, like it was part of their lunar module that came loose, the S4B despite it being so far away, but they were sure it wasn't something to do with the urine dump. They were sure of that. Buzz Aldrin in a Reddit AMA came out saying it's more likely that it was a piece of something man-made, but seemingly begrudgingly still admits that the object, as of now, is unidentified. And the white objects on the lunar surface, I have not found conclusions for these specific cases, but it is reminiscent of transient lunar phenomena, which is theorized to be outgassing events or meteor impacts. Or it is explained by another unexplained event known as electrostatic phenomena. But whatever the explanations are, I'm excited that these anomalies were documented. But it begs the question, how many times have astronauts refrained from reporting something because it makes them seem a little unhinged? The aftermath of the mission is where the crew seemed to act a little strange in a conference. It's a popular thing people have referenced before. This conference was held 21 days after being in quarantine from the moon. They could be overwhelmed, I guess, tired from further isolation. I am just purely going on vibes here, and the vibes are very much off. I found media of their behavior just as they landed, and again, there is the same vibe present sometimes. Although they do seem happy to talk to loved ones and playing the ukulele.
All the commitments and responsibilities that would go along with being on that first flight. And I was a little apprehensive about all the public appearances and so forth. We went into the men's room to relieve the anxiety and so forth. And we couldn't escape even in the men's room. The senator brought in some of his envelopes and asked us to sign them. You felt like a body being pushed around to satisfy their desires.
Two people further away from home than two people have ever been before, but they're probably more human beings watching and paying attention to our very movements right this moment than any people have been before. And that's sort of an unusual...
You were aware of that, were you, at the time?
I certainly was, yes.
A notable thing is that they had to wear biological isolation garments back to Earth, which was for quarantine purposes. You know, in case of any extraterrestrial pathogens coming back to Earth, as per the extraterrestrial exposure law, explaining protocols for being extraterrestrially exposed. But yeah, it's pretty cool because some footage shows them in these suits, and they look like aliens themselves, being gleefully welcomed by mankind. On the 40th anniversary of the moon landing, C-SPAN hosted a roughly 1 hour-long segment with Buzz Aldrin.
To the tragedy of the Apollo 1 fire. But Ed White was a very close friend of mine, and he was, in a way, my role model. He would have been probably one of the first people on the surface of the moon.
And a near tragedy averted with Apollo 13, made famous by the movie by Tom Hanks. In your book is a photograph of you with Tom Hanks. Lessons from Apollo 13, where it was often said, failure is not an option.
Yeah, I know.
He wistfully explains how there's this curious object on Phobos at the tail end of the segment.
Fly by the comets, visit asteroids, visit the moon of Mars. There's a monolith there, a very unusual structure on this little potato-shaped object that goes around Mars once in 7 hours. When people find out about that, they're going to say, who put that there? Who put that there? Well, the universe put it there. If you choose, God put it there.
We can all agree that this comment is mysterious, and we really won't 100% know what the deal is unless we go to that little potato. I had to look deeper, and in his book Mission to Mars, he talks a bunch about phobos and how we should plan to utilize phobos as a laboratory/control station connected to Mars, where he imagined telerobots building the structures for human habitation. He too mentions the monolith some more here, but it is generally the same sentiment as the C-SPAN interview. But yes, Buzz Aldrin, whether intentionally or not, has been associated with the Fringe Isle. Like this documentary that includes his sighting, coupled with this.
So technically, it becomes an unidentified flying object.
The other thing that is inside this lunar module looks like a woman, and this is the alien that they recovered from the ship. There was a study done by the Brookings Institute in the early 1960s, so before NASA went to the moon.
Did he know? I can't seem to read this guy. Take from that what you will.
Beautiful view. Ain't that something? Magnificent sight out here. Magnificent desolation.
Now we're going to talk about Musa Monarov, a Soviet cosmonaut. In 1991, Monarov, while on the Soyuz TM-11 mission to Mir space station, saw a strange object and caught it on tape. At the time, it was considered an alarming development shown in declassified memos. In an interview, Monarov's account rings familiar to the Apollo 11 crew's account.
At some point in the filming, I caught sight of something that seemed to have separated from the ship. Moreover, it was rotating as it moved away and changing its brightness. I can't say exactly how far away it was. I can only say it was not very close because the camera was focused on infinity. At first, it seemed to me that something has separated from the ship. But then, when I examined the ship, I realized that there was nothing that could have broken away. What's more, there were no alarms going off. Everything was calm. Later, there were lengthy arguments as to what it could possibly have been.
Gennady Strekalov also saw an unknown object.
It was a huge sphere. I think it appeared when we were over Newfoundland. The sea was in the background. It was shining, sparkling, with absolutely even shape. It shone like the balls that hang on trees at Christmas. Greenish in color and all shimmering. It was impossible to take your eyes off it. I watched it for maybe 5 or 7 seconds, but I didn't have a camera, and if I'd gone to get one, I would have lost it. And just as suddenly as it appeared, so it just disappeared.
Gennady further comments on the object in another memo with a failed attempt at censoring the word UFO. I see it. I see you there. Saying, this is probably an unknown natural phenomena. Another curious observation I wanted to squeeze in here was on the Apollo 16 mission, where upon taking a peep at a giant boulder named Shadow Rock, they were fascinated by these 2 to 3 centimeter wide holes that were perfectly circular.
And Tony, this rock here looks like the same. It's the same character as the ones up on the rim. Okay. That great, huge black one that we sampled. Except we don't have any, that one up there didn't have any of these holes in it. I can't really say what these holes are here. It just look, they're bugs. Let's just call them bugs. And what caused them, I don't know. Yeah, they look more buggy to me, although they're round. They look like drill holes is what they look like. Yeah, that's right. They look like vesicle pipe. Yeah, vesicle pipe.
They apparently took a sample around the area. One explanation was micrometeorite impacts or something like that. I'm not sure. Looking at the samples and imagery, I'm not sure what holes they are meaning. It seems a little up in the air. If anyone has sources that have pictures of these specific holes, I would really appreciate that. There is many events that I spoke of that are yet to be fully verified. And yes, I'm including the flaccid explanations for strange events by NASA and the like.
And they're using a combination of ranging and infrared imaging information analysis. This example also serves to illustrate the kind of cognitive bias we have to contend with for UAPs recorded from unfamiliar perspectives. And this is a parallax effect case.
The environment that we fly in, space or an atmospheric flight, very, very conducive to optical illusions. So I get it why these pilots would look at that go fast video and think it was going really, really fast.
And we are making great progress, and those firsthand witnesses that we have talked to, looks like an object flying very fast over the water, very close to the water. A trick of the eye called parallax makes it look like the object is moving much faster.
The UAP reports with the most detailed contextual information are the ones from the Navy aviators.
We can tell, where it's located, how fast it's going.
Specifically, the go fast video itself was never really interesting because it was going fast. The pilots certainly didn't say that, nor did they name the video. If anything, the Pentagon simply debunked their own naming for that video. What is interesting, what's anomalous, is that that video was captured within minutes of the gimbal video. I think if the Aero office actually spoke with the pilots that were involved in that incident, they would know the objects were part of a larger formation of objects.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. They're all going against the wind.
Very anomalous to be operating 300 miles off the coast and within 50 miles of a U.S. aircraft carrier.
If you are debunking something, you need to bring the evidence just like your counterpart. We are rendering these events in the dreaded limbo state if we keep up this bad habit of lukewarm verification. These incredible stories deserve the appropriate investigation if it hasn't been done so already. And don't think I forgot about the other side.
Some of the comments suggesting it's not an alien at all, but a ghost.
There is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been visiting us for a very long time.
I came across this Discovery Channel documentary and found this section where they use an audio clip that is more explainable than anything.
Space exploration is like lighting a match, and we don't know what lurks in the shadows.
Hey, what is that?
There could be anything out there.
I initially thought the truth was that the lunar rover blew up, but no, the truth is much more...
What are those things going over? What is that, Jack? Hey, something just hit here. What blew? Hey, what is that? Oh, your antenna. It's that styrofoam off the high-gain antenna package. On the limb? No, the one you deployed. The rover high-gain antenna. My God, it blew up. Yeah. I thought we'd been hit by a... Look at that stuff just kept flying over the top of our head. I thought we were the closest witnesses to a lunar meteor impact.
Apparently it was styrofoam, guys.
There could be anything out there.
A slightly amusing thing to come out of this is Eugene Cernan's excessive use of "holy smoly" in the transcripts.
Holy smoly!
Not to mention the shameless documentary Aliens on the Moon, The Truth Exposed, that conflates Buzz Aldrin's claims with the supposed hidden and forgotten Apollo 20 videos, where they found aliens on the moon, one named the alien Mona Lisa. Thierry Speth was the one who created it and apparently admitted it was a hoax as early as 2007.
To show something that could be a bridge, maybe a pipe, could be an inching worm.
This has the same flagrant energy as the CIA archives, where you will find a lot. Just don't look into the Sphinx or anything Sphinx related, unless you're into that sort of thing. Both sides have muddied the waters with dissonance and overconfidence. But what we need is a sweet spot of grounded curiosity. This is part 1 of a multi-part video where I try to smush as much of my interest into one series. Stay tuned for next time where I continue my passive research and ramblings. You won't guess what happens next. Like, subscribe, and comment down below about your own strange, unexplainable experiences. Brownie points if you have evidence to support it. You've been watching Empty Pools. I salute you guys, and good night.
As Apollo 16 were gearing up to go back into orbit, they caught this unusually shaped rock. Now some say that it's actually a commode, or loo-shaped. Scientists at the university conducted investigations and confirmed that it is real and indeed the John. The original John. All hail John.
All hail, dear John.